So as John pointed out in his presentation, very nice presentation for John just prior. I wanted to first thank PTC. I know we're all dealing with a new normal, and this forum is critical to continue with all the information sharing, both from certainly PTC sharing its roadmap as well as just hearing the information coming from customers and other partners on how the PTC products have been used to truly solve business problems. So very, very important that that this is still being held. Certainly it's different. I was thinking back this morning of how I enjoy meeting everyone in person. So we look forward to that when these forums are able to again be conducted face to face. So today, really just I want to cover from an overall agenda, the objectives of the session, really what I hope to share with you today and hope that you get out of this. Very briefly, just a background on Oberon. I think some of you on the call are familiar with us, but in case others aren't, just talk about our partnership with PTC briefly. And then really the crux of today's presentation is around how Arbortext Editor can be used to support the collaboration process, really getting input from all of the folks that are necessary to create and deliver the content to your customers. And then I will wrap up also with more sort of looking forward some web-based collaboration tools, right? So as the trend continues to bring in more people to the collaboration process, how different types of tools will support that. So from a session objective, really going to discuss various approaches that we've used and that we've actually heard our customers using to enhance the overall participation, effectiveness, and efficiency, really, of the various people or roles that participate in the creation, review, approval, and delivery of content. So certainly the technical writers, which probably many of you on the call today represent that group, but then some of the other key constituents that you rely on throughout your end-to-end process, the subject matter experts, right? It could be your engineers or other product specialists. Could be casual authors that you're sending out to third-party teams to get input on subsystems that they might produce for your overall products, and then also the review teams. So the way I thought best to present this is by using an actual business application, sort of, in addition to talking about the concepts, really show how those different Arbortext features have been applied so that when you see it, you can understand a little more what's behind some of the bullets. And then time permitting, I do have a demonstration that I can run from another computer, and I can share that computer at that time. So just some upfront disclosures. Again, this is the new norm. The top is we have a dog here in the house, and he's been quiet all morning, but certainly we're doing a lot more online ordering as well. So that delivery truck, if it pulls up, hopefully Jake will stay quiet. But again, hopefully that won't occur since he's been quiet all day so far. But really quickly, who is Oberon? Again, I know many of you may be familiar with us. We've been around for a while now, especially in this space of SGML and XML, and providing what we call expert content services, right? Things that are focused on every aspect of the content lifecycle, from authoring through to delivery. We also do focus very heavily on solutions around delivering the content. That, many years back, it was very focused on the PDF, and then it moved to the HTML. But now there's a lot more need to be developing content that can be delivered and consumed in many different formats, device independent and so forth. So we do a lot of specialization in terms of solutions that are able to deliver the content beyond the traditional PDF or HTML. In addition, as PTC also, has a strong focus in this area. Really looking at the extended reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, and focusing on interactive training solutions. I'm not really going to be focusing on primarily the top expert content services today, but just talking about, again, as PTC continues to build out their roadmap on creating and managing and delivering content through its various tools, we're doing very much the same. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on us, but just wanted to give you the background from a credibility so that as you see the slides, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. But really, the key thing that I want to call out here is, our capabilities are across the whole process from authoring using Arbortext Editor all the way to, the publishing and delivery of that information. Many of us on the Oberon team, we're 15 years at Oberon, but even prior to that, many years at Arbortext and PTC. So very strong relationships, both personal as well as professional, with the Arbortext team, as well as deep expertise in the Arbortext products that we'll be talking about today. So really, going into it, the key aspect that we're focusing on today is getting the information that is needed to put together high-value content for your customers, right? So it's not just the technical publications team that's creating this content. It's being created all across the organization. You have subject matter experts in all of your different functional areas that are relied on, be it the safety, legal, engineering, product support, right? But it all comes together at the technical publications team. They're the ones that, deal with the brunt of the work and making sense of the information that's coming at them from all different formats, be it all different means, paper-based, email, maybe various content management systems, file shares. Ultimately, pulling all that together, converting it into XML, be it data. Some of our customers are also still using SGML, but putting it into structured content to then get the value out of that structured content, right? We and our customers realize that if all of this could be done using structured content, right, XML, for instance, it could really help this overall process. But really just leveraging standard XML authoring tools aren't ideal for the casual writers and reviewers, because they might contribute content, once or twice a year maybe during product revision cycles, for instance. So, learning and keeping up on, the various tools and menu items and capabilities of DITA and how to use that in Arbortext Editor really, is something where the training and so forth to just use these tools casually hasn't been an ideal fit. Using what I'll say tools out of the box. And that's where I want to really focus on, making you aware of various capabilities, in case you're not familiar with them, within Arbortext Editor that can be used to support the overall collaboration process. And I'll go through a lot of these in more detail, but sort of as a takeaway, there's both capabilities that casual contributors, or I'll say the subject matter experts, or the authors that are outside of the technical publications team, need to contribute content. You can do things around toolbars, around tag templates, right? I'm going to talk about all these through the example application I share, but just as a summary of some of the features, there's quite a bit that you can really take advantage of, and most of these are configurable. So it's not something where you have to have developers on staff to leverage a lot of the capabilities available to you. Certainly, if you go into things such as the Arbortext command language, where it's more scripting language, certainly you have to have folks that are developer-minded. But again, it's not compiled. So once you have a few examples, a lot of that can be built upon. When I talk about reviewers, that's where I want to dip into also, leveraging tools outside of the Arbortext Editor and really look at how Publishing Engine can be leveraged, as well as Windchill. So we'll get into these, like I said, through a a real application that we at Oberon have been using here for all of our 15 years that we've been in existence. And it's around building proposals or statements of work, right? The business need for us was to have a repeatable process, an application that could generate content that was always reflecting our brand, that was always pulling in appropriate information, always pulling in, the best ways of writing content. Again, John just talked about simplified English, so I'm not saying that we have deployed that per se, but again, if we find a better way to talk about our capabilities, let's write that one place and then have all of our salespeople represent that consistently, right? So it's really a way to take reusable content across all of the different proposal or statement of work sections and allow the end users, in this case our sales team, to pick and choose which pieces they need for the specific proposals they're working on, and then tailor where necessary, right? So certainly there's unique aspects of the statement of work with the customer data, the project details, but a lot of it is very reusable and remains untouched. So I talked about before the different roles in the process. So we have the technical writers. We have folks here that are actually using the full features of Arbortext Editor, creating the content references, setting up profiling and so forth, right? They're creating these reusable data topics that represent the different pieces of the proposal. The sales team, we're not asking them to understand and use the full features of Arbortext Editor. So what we've done for our sales team is we deliver a streamlined user interface. And again, I'll show you that through some upcoming slides, but really an application for them to go in and pick and choose what they need and then automatically build the overall book map, in this case, for data, and then they can go in and input any specific customer-related information for that SOW. Right? So it helps streamline the process and, again, enforce consistency. And then from reviewers, I'll talk about that as well as how we manage our review process internally, and again, how that may be applicable to many of you on this call. We've done a similar solution, and if you can think of it based on your company, similar types of needs are in existence for what I'll call assembled documents, right? Component-based documents. It could be policies, insurance policies, or financial services type of documents where you're pulling in different pieces that are reusable and other pieces that might be automatically generated from different data sources, but ultimately assembled into a finished good or a finished document. Same thing, we've used a similar approach for contact centers, right? You have a lot of finalized, approved product content, but you might have some pieces of that response document, the response letter, that you want to make customized or personal, right? The opening or the cover pages, or maybe some additional attachments and so forth. So again, similar concept. While I'm showing it as a proposal application, conceptually this has been used for many different types of applications and might be applicable for many of you as well. So again, what I want to do is walk through the different roles. So this is what we've done is we've taken XUI, or XML user interface. So it's a feature, it's a tool that's available within Arbortext Editor that allows you to build dialogues, user interfaces, and they are defined in XML. So you use XML to describe the form. So this, it has a text field, it has radio buttons, it has input fields, it has tree control, so to speak, that can expand and collapse. So all of this is built using what's called XUI, or XML user interface. And in this dialog specific to this application, the salesperson can go in and input customer-specific data. Who's the company, who's the contact, what's the name of the proposal, and then any other information that they want to capture. And these become variables in many cases to the proposal, so that anytime we want to call out the company name, we type it in once as a variable, and then it applies throughout the different components, the data topics that are used for this proposal. But really, a lot of the power is down in this the bottom half of what are the data topics that the salesperson wants to include for this specific proposal or statement of work. So this is where we have the technical writers creating these reusable, standardized topics that are then made available to the sales team to pick and choose, reorder as needed to ultimately reflect what will become a book map for this statement of work. Right? So the key things, again, I'm not going to try to get too technical here, but just wanting to call out, if you're not familiar with them, XUI and ACL, right? XML user interface for creating the dialogues, and Arbortext command language, scripting language that really can drive a lot of the business rules and the logic for the dialogues. So that's what's going on behind the scenes here to support this simplified interface that allows the salesperson to first create the overall book map. Once they identify which pieces they want, then we present them with the simplified user interface, right? So that they are now in Arbortext Editor, but again, what you might notice here, if you're a technical writer, there's a lot less menu items, there's a lot less toolbar icons, and we could streamline this even more if we wanted to. What I've also done here is when we have the salesperson going in to edit, in this case, the exec summary, it's in DITA. We didn't do any specializations here, but what we did is we used the document configuration file, the DCF file, to really both limit the tags that are available so that you don't see the 50 or so tags that are available at the end of a paragraph, but only the 5 or 6 that we really want the salesperson to focus on, right? Inserting a graphic here, inserting some type of note and so forth, or another table or paragraph. Right? We've also aliased the tags, gave them more meaningful names than the DITA tag names. So again, all of this is available to you out of the box with Arbortext Editor by use of the DCF file in this case, turning off the tag view and so forth. So some other things that you might want to make use of: instructional comments, right? Just inline comments to instruct the end user what you want them to put in this paragraph, right? Make sure this paragraph focuses on the business driver of this project to the customer and so forth. But there's so many, I couldn't capture them all in this one slide, but tag templates, macros, just a lot of capabilities that can be brought to bear to simplify some of these casual authors, and frankly, maybe even simplify some of your technical writers, right? Maybe there's not all the tags needed for the types of documents you're creating today in DITA. Funny story I have. One of my colleagues and I were out at a customer, and we were kicking off a project that was to upgrade the customer's current Arbortext environment, and we were gathering the requirements. And one of the requirements was, can you build in some spell checking capability, right? So that we could track our changes and so forth. And this was a customer that had Arbortext Editor, I think, for probably 15 years at that point. And my colleague and I, we looked at each other, a little confused at first, and I just launched Arbortext Editor and went in and showed them, the tools track changes, and they said, that's exactly what we're looking for. Here, what they didn't know was, at the time, this was built, many of the technical writers that were currently on the team were not on the team at that point, so that menu item had been hidden from them, unbeknownst to them. So again, hopefully that's not the case for many of you, but there are so many features, and sometimes some of the capabilities get, I'll say, turned off or hidden. So it would be good just to check, with your Arbortext experts if you're looking for a certain feature, because it may already be in there and just might be hidden or disabled through some of the scripting that may have been done in your implementation. This same exact exec summary, if a tech writer opened this up, the cursor was in the same location. In this case, I hit enter, and here's the same tags, right? They don't have the tag aliases exposed to them or being applied to them, so they see the actual DITA tag names in this case, and they also see all of the available DITA tags that can be inserted at that location. So it's not turning off the features for everyone. It's more role-based. It can know that for a given person, that's going in, a sales user going in, it knows to leverage the aliases and the DCF file to its full extent, whereas the technical writers would then have access to all the necessary features, or just a completely different set of menu items, toolbars that might be displayed or hidden for them. I mentioned reviewers, so reviewers aren't necessarily in Arbortext Editor, but there are some additional PTC tools that you may want to consider that, again, are different ways. It could be a change to your existing review process, but again, there could be just the use of style sheets. Having a special style sheet that, let's say you have an entire book map. What you can do is you can compare and determine which of the topics within that book map have not changed, right, using baselines or some other Windchill capabilities, which topics haven't changed since the last revision, and possibly shade those so that while you're still giving the reviewers the full context of the published document, if needed, they'd know which areas haven't changed, from revision G to revision H, right? So again, it allows your reviewers to focus on where you want them to focus, as opposed to getting input on sections that haven't even been changed. You can also certainly use just standard out-of-the-box change tracking or change bars. So different things you can do. We've had some customers even do the shading within topics, right? So leveraging the change tracking and then applying different styling to that change tracking markup to support the review process, right? If you are a Windchill user in conjunction with Arbortext, right, then you have the full suite of capabilities available to you. So in Windchill, leveraging either the workflow or change notice capabilities to only send out the topics that have changed. Again, you could send topics out as PDF. Everyone can consume PDF. You can send them out as HTML, right, or push all those topics that have changed to to an external site that people can open up those HTML files and provide feedback on those files. And again, using Windchill to automatically publish the review style sheet by using the pub rules, right? So various ways, again, many of this is either using styler or using configurations, right? So not a lot of real heavy development required here to start making possibly even just some incremental changes to support your end-to-end creation, review, and approval process. So I'm going to shift gears quickly and talk about where we see the future, right? So in addition to an Arbortext-based collaboration, what we're seeing is many of these team members, either inside your organization or even external to your organization, are looking for other ways to participate. They don't have Arbortext Editor. Maybe you leverage third-party companies to provide subject matter expertise, right? So how to ensure that you're able to include as many people as possible, but with the lowest barrier to entry, and that's where we're seeing the need and desire for participation via the web, right? So performing lightweight editing via web-based tools, as well as doing review and feedback, via the web. to support device-independent review and update needs as well, right? So putting something in a browser, whether it be a smartphone, a tablet, all of those with browser access, can still allow you to then provide that capability to contribute content, as well as just provide feedback on that content. And all the while, doing this against the source XML content. So again, going back to that earlier slide where the technical publications team, has been doing a lot of that massaging and heavy lifting today. In this case, really allowing the content to stay in the source XML content, but presented in such a way that it can be updated or consumed and reviewed by the folks needed to provide eyes on that content. Okay. So, again, looking at the goals of these tools, right? They should seamlessly integrate into your environment, right? So again, if you're already using Arbortext Editor with Windchill and Publishing Server and possibly using translation management capabilities, right? All of that stays the same. What happens is the editors and the reviewers via the web then are connecting into Windchill to access the necessary content. Like I said, they could be participating through Windchill workflows. It could be through email invites from the authors, but all the while pointing back to the content that's being governed and managed centrally within Windchill. So again, more to come on this, but this will be something that we'll be working with PTC on, to present, more in depth in the future as we flesh this out deeper. But just wanted to give you a feel for it. What are the key capabilities that we're targeting for both the lightweight editor as well as the reviewer from the web? Still copying and pasting. We know that the casual writers are still getting information possibly from other sources, right? So rather than them having to rekey this, they could still leverage copy and paste capabilities from source into the web-based tools. If these lightweight authors have the need to manage overall structure, be it maps or book maps, to drag and drop those topics as needed, right? Might not be the case, but we have heard the need for some, I'll say, lightweight authors to still have enough of a participation level where they're actually looking at reordering topics within a chapter, let's say, of a book map. Supporting, all types of all sizes of documents, right? So it's not something where, it's not Word where you're going to, really extend the boundaries of Word capabilities because of graphics being embedded. These are XML based documents. So again, it's dealing with the references to graphics and so forth. We also see the need to support both individual topic editing or having a view from an overall book map, right? So being able to display the entire book map and then the subject matter expert scrolling through and updating those topics that they're responsible for updating. Again, all the while, this is operating on the source XML content, so it's ensuring syntactical, I don't even think that's a word, valid XML all the while, right? So although there's no tags, making sure that all the information is continuing to be governed by the underlying document model. Key thing again is seamless integration, built-in integration with Windchill. Right? So again, ensuring that where content is being created and managed, it could be initially created by the technical publications team, and then you're asking your subject matter experts to edit that, to make updates to that, or it could be that your subject matter experts are creating the initial take on that topic, right? It could be your engineering team drawing up the engineering spec, and then that's ultimately embellished or polished for a various manual that gets output by the technical publications team, but operating on that same content, right, stored in Windchill. And then on the review side, again, you're not checking out or checking in documents at this point within Windchill, but being able to provide web-based annotations and commenting. So we call them two different things. Annotations are more, think of it, what we mean by that is you're really suggesting, almost like change tracking. The annotation is you're showing that I want to replace this word or words with this other phrase. Whereas commenting might be more of highlighting a phrase and saying, are you sure this is in line with the latest regulations? Right? So not necessarily providing the recommended or suggested replacement text for it, but just to call attention to the authors where you might think that there's some updates needed. The ability to see and work with others, real-time collaboration. So as someone else might be posting updates or comments, you'd be able to see that in turn and participate in that thread. And then some of the other things, just different views of the document, right? What did it look like before the changes were made? What would it look like as the changes are applied and so forth, so that you can have the different views and really review it with different perspectives. Again, built-in integration with Windchill. So it's serving up the content that's being stored, managed, and routed via workflows within Windchill. So I think we're good on time. So really, in summary, just the collaboration beyond the technical publications team really has been a gap, right? And I think it's fair to say it still continues to be a gap for the most part. But there are opportunities for you to be looking at current tools that you already are probably using. If all of you, you're participating in an Arbortext symposium, so either you're looking at or you're already using Arbortext products. So how to leverage all of the features available to you within the Arbortext product suite, as well as Windchill if you're also leveraging Windchill. But then also, in the future, augmenting your existing solution architecture with some web-based tools to support the lightweight authoring capability as well as the review process. So I think, in this next year, just as you saw a lot of the other information of where the PTC team continues to make product improvements based on technology changes and customer desires, I think this is another area that will start to reveal some new opportunities for you. So what I'm going to do is I'll try to do a demo quickly, and it won't require a lot of time, and then it will still allow some time for questions. But certainly, if you do have other questions, please submit them. If we can't get to them all, or feel free to reach me at my email on the screen. But what I'm going to do now is hopefully share one screen within another application. And start sharing my other screen where I have Arbortext Editor running.
Okay, I'll let you know when it comes up. Right now we're seeing just a black screen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sharing two different screens. So let's see if it allows me to do this. To your point, Melissa.
Looks like a beach with some beautiful rocks in the background. Okay, yep.
Okay. You see this now?
Yes. You just want to make it a little bit bigger.
Yes, exactly. All right. So this is, probably many of you are familiar with it. This is Arbortext Editor. It's actually styler, only in case if I want to publish something during the demo. But what we've done is as I mentioned, we've created a custom menu so that our sales folks, when they're going in and needing to create a new proposal, they'd come in and they have a menu item that's specific to all the proposal functionality. And again, as I mentioned, this is using capabilities called XUI, or pronounce it ZUI. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce it, but that's how we pronounce it here. But it's a way to build very either simple or complex dialogues. You can see that this dialogue has tabs on it, as well as different frames, so to speak. Within those frames, additional tabs and the ability to do tree view controls. So very, very powerful capabilities for you to build these applications within Arbortext Editor. So this, I'll go through this very quickly, but what you can do is we first give the salesperson the ability to capture some unique information about this customer. So I'm building a statement of work for the ABC Logistics Company. There might be a full name as well as a shortened name, so that as I, again, use these variables throughout the different topics that get pulled in for this proposal, it will substitute all those placeholders, right? And it's through data, so it's leveraging content reference capabilities within this application. I won't fill in all these, but we have different tabs to capture information that's specific to both the customer, the proposal, what type of proposal is it, RFI, RFP, et cetera. But really the powerful aspect of this is, as I said, we have our technical writers that create these different reusable pieces that can be selected and pulled together to create a book map to represent this statement of work. And what you can do is, as you select each one, you can indicate whether you want to add a copy of it or just reuse it as is, right? The exec summary is pretty much a template that then gets written or updated by the salesperson. So that we probably want to create a copy of, right? Because they're going to go in and put specific information about this proposal for this given customer. Whereas in the details of the project, maybe the overview is pretty much the same. We're talking about our standard approach to doing Arbortext and Windchill solutions. We're going to gather, we're going to perform a requirements session. We're also going to perform Windchill information, data modeling, right? So a lot of this could be just standard information. But then again, when I get down to further, the implementation plan, again, it might take 3 months for this customer. So we want to make a copy of that. But I think you get the point, right? You get the ability to, as a salesperson, to select all this information that's needed without them having to author it each time or really worry about going in and finding those pieces of content in Windchill, inserting them into the book map and so forth. Right? But ultimately, I'll put all this information together. I'll just give the project a name. And if I didn't put that, it actually prompts because it knows required fields as well. It would tell me that I at least need a project name as well as some other information. Right? So really, after I fill out the necessary information, I'm gonna cut this short for time to leave questions, but going through and identifying all the information I want to capture, both data specific as well as content specific, and then create would become available once I've satisfied all of the required information, right? That I might have required sections that I need to include for this type of proposal and certain metadata. Not to pull you through that whole process now, but really then what this does is it builds a book map, builds a data book map, and opens that up for the salesperson in their streamlined view to then begin making the updates to those topics that they're allowed to update. And where they were linked, those are locked down topics that are read-only, so they can't even go in and and update those if they wanted to change their mind.